Is your relationship causing you more stress, but also giving you lots of joy? Or are you single and unhappy? Or single because you don't want to be in a relationship, but secretly you do, but you're just getting over pain from the last one? Or are you in a relationship and you're unhappy and you're planning your escape? I mean, if any of that applies to you, you're going to want to watch this video. Hi everyone, it's Peter Sage here, and I wanted to shoot a quick content-rich video to give you some practical tips on addressing areas of relationships that very few people talk about. And partly is because I want to celebrate the fact we're off to Bali very shortly with the Master's Circle, where we're going to be spending a week together doing a deep dive on learning all of the fundamental aspects of mastering intimate relationships, but also because obviously a vast majority of you are not going to be coming to that event, and I want to give you something that you can use right now, either in your relationships or to help you get a better relationship if you're currently looking for one at the moment. And I'm going to be covering three primary things here. The first is really understanding the purpose of a relationship. Because if you think the purpose of a relationship is to make you happy, I got news for you. It isn't. Second thing I'm going to be covering are some of the basic patterns of emotional immaturity, which show up a lot in relationships. And what to look for, because if it'll give you an insight into some of the unconscious things that we do to self-sabotage or to repeat different aspects of stress and different causes of why we stay unhappy more than happy in certain relationships or have done in the past, for example. And lastly, I want to address what your relationship to relationships is, something again that's very rarely discussed. And I'm going to give you some insights around that as well. So let's get started. Let's talk about what the purpose of a relationship is. Because again, if you think that the purpose of a relationship is to be happy, you're in Disneyland. If you've not figured that out yet already based on the feedback that life gives you. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people go into a relationship with that expectation. And if you do think that the purpose of a relationship is to make you happy, or to be happy, then you're going to start placing expectations on your partner. And you're going to get upset with your partner when those expectations aren't met. In other words, you're going to start saying, right, well, I'm not happy, so I'm going to blame you because you did this or you did that or you're not doing this. And as a result of that, you're going to create a lot of friction. Now, when you look at placing expectations on people and that doesn't happen, you come to the root cause of nearly all stress. All stress comes from essentially unmet expectations, no matter where you are in life. It's usually because you're focused too much on putting rules about what the outside world should look like, and they don't fit the pictures right now out there as to what you think they should look like from being creating in here. In other words, your outer world doesn't match the pictures of your inner world, and therefore you get upset or you get stressed or you try then to dominate, control, manipulate the situation in order for it to fit. Or more commonly in relationships is to blame. So, why do we get into relationships? What is the real purpose of it? The real purpose of a relationship, it's to provide an environment where we can make better choices on expressing a more loving aspect of ourselves rather than a more fearful aspect of ourselves. Now, just hold that for a second and I'll demonstrate. I'm going to give you an analogy such as school. What is the purpose of school? Is it to be happy? Well, I think we all know the answer to that one. No. Is it to give you a good education? No. That's your objective, or probably your objective, personally, of going through the school environment, but it's not the actual purpose or the objective of school itself in terms of the environment. No. The purpose of school is to provide an environment where you have the ability to make better choices in relationship to your education. For example, you can choose to apply yourself, study, show up for exams and really knuckle down, or you can choose to skip class, get drunk, go partying, not revise. One of those is going to lead to a path that is more akin to or conducive to getting a better education, and another is going to take you down a path where that's less chance of it happening. But The purpose of school is not to be happy. We know that. It doesn't mean to say you can't be happy in school. See, the purpose of a relationship is not to be happy. It doesn't mean to say you can't be happy in a relationship. They're usually benchmarks or a byproduct of whichever path you take. If you're getting into a relationship and you understand that the purpose is to provide an environment where you can make better choices as to be more loving, and more expressive, more tolerant, more compassionate, and celebrate the fact that you've got a partner, rather than be more dominant, controlling, fearful, and put expectations on them, basically make them responsible for you being happy, then both of those paths are likely going to lead to different destinations. One's going to be more joyful, more fulfilling, more of a celebration. The other's going to be more fearful, has its role in jealousy, anger, upset, frustration. Speaking of jealousy, for example, why do people get jealous? All right? It's a present time fear of a future perceived loss. I say it's total mismanaged imagination because you're coming from fear. So what is the purpose of a relationship? Again, it's to provide an environment where we can, a classroom if you like, where we have the opportunity to express choices of a more loving or a more fearful nature and get immediate feedback on that quality. Now, some of you may say, oh, well, I do love my partner and they don't love me back. Well, then you have a choice of whether you want to stay or not, right? Your job is not to judge them for how they're showing up in class. They have every right to be an idiot in the relationship, and you have every right to choose to leave that relationship or stay in them. But you can't fix them. You can only be an example for them. Right? And as many people I think have found out to their detriment, trying to fix somebody simply doesn't work. Right? Everyone's on their own journey. Now, why do we get into relationships? Because we're social creatures. We think that relationships are there to make us happy because we are designed to be social creatures. And if we're not with people, we don't feel as good a lot of the time. We get joy or through being connected. And the mistake we therefore make is that we think we'll go into a relationship to avoid being alone and therefore unhappy. And again, it's the wrong reasons. That's not the purpose. If you can understand that relationships are a great crucible for your own personal growth, then you've got a chance of making it work. Because you're not going to resent people when it doesn't go your way. You'll realize it's an opportunity to be able to dig deeper and find out what's going on with you rather than them. Now, again, this is all about taking personal responsibility, I know, but what's the alternative? You want to be a victim? See, it's very rare that people will, when conflict arises in a relationship, which is predictable, that they get a shovel and they start digging deep to find out what is the awareness that I can learn from here. No, they don't reach for a shovel, they reach for a drink, or they reach for an argument, or they reach for a justification as to why they're right, or they reach for an escape route. You've got a very different context of being able to understand it. Next, I want to talk about fresh hemp milk, in case you were wondering, made fresh this morning. I never drink cow's milk. If you want a quick side on that, go see the viral video, Dairy is Scary, by the great Erin Janis. Something I've been teaching for years, but she encapsulates very well. Anyway, moving on. The second point I wanted to make, if you are running patterns of emotional immaturity in a relationship, then no matter what you try to do consciously, you're going to be self-sabotaging. And when I say emotional immaturity, I'm really talking not about age. There is a lot of emotionally immature teenagers running around in very adult bodies. I think we've all been there. But what are some of the patterns that people run? Well, I'll give you a few, and this is a non-exhaustive list, but I'll share some of the common ones. Let's pick patterns of protection. Protection is a big one. Shyness, actually, certainly for people that are single, shyness is a protection pattern. In other words, what is shy? Shy is a ghost. Shy is a racket. Shy is, please don't let you discover me because I'm scared of being judged. Right? That's something that you're going to have to get over. What do I mean by that? Well, if you are under the illusion that being judged by somebody is terminal, then you're going to live a life that's constantly in fear. You're going to want to hide out. You're going to want to put your head behind the curtain and not peek out, because you're under the illusion of thinking that anybody really cares, right? Let me tell you something. Most people in life don't care enough about you to bother to judge you. Why? They're too busy being worried about what they think you're going to judge them for. That's the reality of it. Right? So shyness is a racket, but people will stay shy. You say, oh, she just needs to go out and meet more people and then she'll find the one. But she doesn't do it because she's shy. Well, that's like saying, I don't want to play in the classroom of life. I'm going to sit and put my head under my desk. Well, I'm sorry, but life's a pretty good teacher. It's going to drag you to the front of the room. And you can either do it voluntarily, or life usually engineers more painful lessons if we're unwilling to embrace it. So, shy is a way that we can protect ourselves. Another way, by the way, is I've seen is a lot of people who actually have weight issues. Now, this is a gross generalization, but and certainly doesn't apply to everybody. But there's a lot of people that unconsciously use weight as a way to protect themselves from being rejected. Now, that may sound a paradox, but allow me to explain. If you have a weight issue and you are struggling with it, it's not as if we don't know what steps to take a lot of the time practically, but a lot of the time we'll self-sabotage because while we're heavy, then that means if we get rejected by somebody, they're not rejecting us for who we are. It's just the fact that we have a weight issue. They're rejecting our size, for example. And what that means is that if I was to lose weight, and people consciously don't like being too heavy a lot of the time, it comes with a lot of low self-esteem for many people due to society's conditioned programming as to what they think they should look like. So if you try to lose weight, and you'll have a big multi-billion-dollar industry that'll agree with you on that and try to support you in it, then you'll get to a point where you can be accepted for who you are, but that means you can also be rejected for who you are. And at that point, you'll start to self-sabotage and put the weight back on. Why? Because, and actually it may happen in one or two ways. You'll either do it through blaming other things that are outside of your control. It's my hormones, it's my metabolism, it's my thyroid, it's whatever it is. Or things that you can control, like choices on what to eat, and therefore you blame yourself, you beat yourself up. I'm such an idiot, I was on a no-carb day and I just did a big tub of Haagen-Dazs, whatever it may be. And as a result of that, what happens? You beat yourself up and reject yourself, which is ironically the very pattern you're trying to avoid, or the feeling you're trying to avoid through protecting yourself against being rejected personally by somebody else by being heavy. So what is the issue? It's not a weight issue. It's not a shyness issue. The issue is the fear of being rejected and what you think that means, because it triggers the fear that you're not enough. The primary fear that we all have. Why? Because it's linked to the ultimate fear that therefore we won't be loved. Now, where does that have its roots? It has its roots in a lack of self-love. Many people get into relationships because they want to avoid being lonely. Why are they lonely? Because they don't like themselves. If you have total love for yourself, then you can never be lonely because you'll always have you with you and you like you. Whereas people that get into relationships that are lonely will usually attract somebody into their relationship who's also lonely. Great, perfect combination. Now you have two people that are lonely in a relationship. So dealing with the real issues, the issue is I'm scared of rejection because I fear other people's judgment. Guys, let me tell you something. Because we project most of the time, when somebody rejects you, it's usually nothing more than a projection of what they don't like about themselves. It's not even about you. Nobody but nobody has the right to do anything to you emotionally, and nobody can do anything to you emotionally without your permission. And if that happens, it's usually because there's an unresolved self-issue there, like not falling in love with yourself, not being, or the fear of being rejected, or not being good enough, or not having enough self-love to be able to express and give from your overflow. So therefore, if somebody loves me, then I'll be okay. But you've got nothing left to give them, so why would they? So all of these patterns of emotional immaturity are always operating for the vast majority of us at different levels. But what's driving you is my question. Again, if it's jealousy, you can solve jealousy in one shifting contextual awareness if you allow the pattern to go away. And what is that? It's by asking yourself this question. Do I or should I ever have the right over who should or shouldn't love me? Now, when you sit with that for a second, you realize the answer is clearly no. Unless you want to come from a place of domination and control. Why are you trying to control somebody's love that is freely given? Because you're scared of what would happen if it went away, right? And you'd feel alone. See, if you're getting into a relationship because of neediness, which is another one of the patterns. I get into a relationship because I need you. And you fall for that whole Tom Cruise line of, you complete me. No, you don't. Nothing completes you other than you. Nothing outside of you could ever complete you other than you. It can only ever give you permission for you to accept and complete yourself. Right? It's an internal reference, and if you're looking for an external reference to trigger it, you're never going to happen. Right? It's like two people walking around as a half circle, desperately looking for another half circle to, oh, you complete me. No, you've basically create a relationship based on neediness and codependency and fear of loss. Right? Because you're always, if you're a half circle looking for another half circle and you find one, you're then going to adapt your behavior consistently in a way that hopefully prevents this person from walking away. And in other words, you'll become this adaptation machine rather than this expression of authenticity. If you work on yourself, if you solve and address your own patterns of emotional immaturity, neediness, codependency, rejection, fear, all of that stuff, and you become a whole circle or more of a whole circle yourself, you'll start attracting other people that are a more whole circle, and then you can start celebrating being together. See, that's when 1 + 1 = 11, and you're not running around thinking, oh, what's my partner going to do? Right? Somebody smiles at your partner and you're a jealous person, you're going to project your fear onto that scenario, and you can say, what's going on there? Rather than coming from a place of love and saying, oh, wow, they obviously think my partner's attractive. How lucky am I to be with them? And they chose me instead of that other person. See, two different paths that you can take that leads to completely different experiences. And by the way, you say, but what if they leave? Well, if the bird flies out of the cage and doesn't come back, you never had the bird in the first place. What gives you the illusion or the right to think that you can own somebody at that level? I think we outlawed slavery about 400 years ago in the Western world. So, that is down to free choice. Nobody owns anybody in this day and age. And if you think so, you're going to come from a place of fear and control, and that has its no basis in love. Which kind of brings me on to my next point. What is your relationship to relationships? Because, if you find yourself thinking that the purpose of a relationship is to make you happy, that your partner has to do certain things in order to, meet your needs and rules for what has to happen in there, then you're basically following a model of relationship that is fundamentally flawed. And this is one of the, challenges that many relationship coaches, books, seminars, all have that I see in the marketplace. They're trying to teach strategies that allow you to navigate a minefield of a model of relationships that was never designed or built for unconditional love. What do I mean by that? Well, let's just look at how relationships start and what model is generally accepted or followed by society. You meet somebody, you have proximity, there's chemistry, or you just go on a dating app or Tinder or whatever it may be to try to find the one. Wouldn't recommend Tinder for that. But if you have a situation where you now are with somebody and you're hooking up and you get some chemistry, and there's a moment in that relationship where you introduce them or they introduce you to somebody as your boyfriend and or girlfriend, and it kind of clicks into place that you are now in a relationship. You've gone from dating or casual or whatever it was into a relationship. At that moment, this model kind of clicks in around you like an invisible cloak. And it really comes with a whole set of rules and expectations that we now as a society adopt. We didn't vote on it. We don't know where it came from because most people don't do their homework. But here's what I will tell you. It didn't come from a place that was created out of love. It was created out of fear and control. And if you go back 2,500 years and do your history, you'll see it really had its basis out of the Greek city-states. And the model that we now have was essentially, I will have a relationship with you and this model will click into place because of economic stability, political advantage, tribal survival. I'm going to marry this person and we will stay together. Why? Because you have a skill set, you're a dressmaker, I'm a blacksmith, and between us we can have a stronger economic foundation. Or you're going to marry this person because our families have been at war for 200 years and it will finally unite the political alliances so that we can become stronger to face bigger enemies outside of our boundaries. Now, my point being here, guys, is this. The whole concept of the traditional model of relationship of control, domination, imposition, expectations of happiness, has its basis in, again, political domination, control, economic survival, and all of that stuff. Go back 200 years and you want to marry somebody because you loved them, they would put you in a lunatic asylum. Seriously, go do your homework, check it out. Only in the last 100 or so years has the concept of romantic love, unconditional love, been the basis for modern relationships. And the challenge there, obviously, is put over the top of a model that wasn't designed for it. Now, it's still supported by the fairy tale industry, thanks Disney, where everybody wants to grow up. The girls want to grow up and find their Prince Charming, and the guys want to grow up and find the one, and all of this kind of stuff. But that industry is alive and kicking. It takes Visa, Amex, and MasterCard, but it's fundamentally flawed in its concept of being put over the top of a traditionally based relationship that has its genesis in control, ownership, and expectation. And we think that now the relationship that's purpose is to make us happy and compound all of that, plus our own immature patterns that we're running. And is it any wonder that we have 65+% divorce rates, of people having affairs all over the place, people not understanding why they're having the same relationship time and again, one after the other, but with different named people, and wonder why we keep blaming them and things don't get better. It's the classic example, or the phrase that says, if everybody you meet is an idiot, maybe it's not them. It's about self-work here. So, I really wanted to just touch on that so you got an idea of understanding what are the hidden patterns that run this. It's not just a case of, oh, I'm going to meet somebody, oh, we're perfect together. That's usually the two half circles situation that has a time limit, or you get into relationships for the wrong reasons. And again, I talk about a lot of hidden patterns of human behavior in my new book, The Inside Track. Oh, by the way, available in all good bookstores, Amazon bestseller #1, a shameless book plug in the middle of a relationship video. Bear with me. But no, that wasn't the basis. It's really a case here to be able to have deeper levels of awareness so you can use some of these awarenesses today. Remember, knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. Now, for those that may be a little more interested, we're going to go and spend a week deep diving this information and reinventing an entire new model of relationships that has its basis in unconditional love, that allows you to be more joyous, that allows you to have less fear and make better choices when it comes to having your ownership of yourself, rather than being needy and trying to project that. And if you want to come to Bali, we're going to spend a week. There's 16 places, 13 have already sold. There's only 3 places left at the time of this video. If you want to have a look and just have a bit more information, go check out the link that I'm posting here with this. If it's already sold out by then, or you're watching this video after the 2nd of September when we're going, then no worries. I hope you're going to take a lot of value out of what I've shared already. But generally speaking, if you can go and have a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of context when it comes to looking at why you are in a relationship, why you want to be in a relationship, or who you are as you show up in that relationship, you'll have far more success and far more understanding of how to be happier than most people, unfortunately, that are alive today that don't have access to that information, or are asking the wrong questions, such as, why isn't my partner making me happy? Or, why do I never attract the right person? Or, why does this person always do this? And all of that stuff. Play a better game. And that's my invitation to you. Got any questions? Put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer. And guys, I love you. Thank you so much. Hope this has been useful. I'll see you on another content-rich video at some point soon. And until then, again, remember, nobody's got the right to tell you you can't do it. Nobody's got the right to project their emotional stuff on you and have you feel bad as a result. Come at life from a place of seeing more love than fear, and everything will shift. I love you guys. I'll see you on a video soon.